So another person on Instagram left a comment and asked, when can we see the long overdue correction in the market that's been expected? I'd like to start investing in rental property, but I feel like the greater Charlotte market, properties are just hyperinflated compared to their actual worth, and I don't want to relive 2008. And then
Okay.
also, how does Charlotte compare to Dallas Fort Worth?
All right, so now I'm in Charlotte on the website here, and all these listings give us a jumping off point to sort of analyze things. Um, the, the the follower on Instagram asked the question, the long-awaited correction. Okay, long-awaited correction. Why does he believe this long-awaited correction? Probably because he or she heard about that in the media, because everybody expects that when the market goes well, it's going to crash. Now, here is a chart depicting home prices in Charlotte over the last 24 years, January 96 to 2019. Okay, this is going to update at the end of this year. And this just shows you the green line, an incredibly resilient, seasonalities, ups and downs and everything, but an incredibly resilient long-term trend. The blue line shows you the US. All right, so here's this real estate boom of 2005, 6. Here's the big ugly crash, and here's the recovery. When you see it in context, not from reading headlines, but actually see it in context, this is raw data of the average price in this county, the state, and the country over that 20 plus year period. So you've got wartime, you've got peacetime, you've got high rates, low rates, you have a housing boom and a housing crisis. That the question was asked by somebody who says, well, the inevitable bubble that we're in right now, show me where that is, right? Show me where it is. So the big bubble that we all are afraid of is what happened in 2008. If you bought the house in 2002 or 3 and hung on to it, you didn't get hurt. If you bought it at the peak and freaked out and sold it at the trough, you got hurt. If you bought it at the peak and held on to it, you did fine. All right. So this is the reality of what actually happened and what is known as the Great Housing Crisis. All right. And here's a person who's waiting. Here's what I can promise you. When I say I can't guarantee anything, but I promise you, you will spend more for that house you're looking at next year. You'll spend more for that house the year after. There is absolutely nothing on the horizon that tells me that Charlotte is in some form or fashion headed for a 2008 crisis. Now, let me show you something very interesting that will help to put it into context. Let's go and take a look at Las Vegas during that same time period. And I'll just pick a house because it doesn't matter which one I pick because the chart is for the county. Again, go to the property, go to the market data. Okay, well, now we're talking, right? The green line here and the black line are the state of Nevada, the city of Vegas. And then here's the blue is the country. So obviously much more volatile. When you see something like this, a sheer cliff, you should expect at the other side of the peak to have the other side of that sheer cliff. All right, so they went crazy and then it corrected really hard. It went down below that trend line. But again, back to this old analysis, you grab the green line, establish a trend line during times of calm, and then keep going. Forget about the blue brick and just look at my cursor. My cursor, if I let the trend line carry me across, I ignore the peak, I ignore the trough. Look where it hits, right in the middle of the peak and the trough. It hits right here. And if I carry that trend line out, where does it end up? Right where we are now. So this is a market that had crazy volatility during the housing boom and housing bust, but I'm still not concerned about a heavy correction in Las Vegas. Forget about COVID the last 3 months where prices might have gone a little bit crazy. There's a lot of people that look at this and say, well, obviously we're in a housing bubble. See this craziness? This is obviously a housing bubble, but not when you zoom, excuse me, when you bring it back over again and say, well, what happened before that? Oh, that's the old peak. We are even up to that. And what happened before that? Oh, look at that. That's crazy. You look at it in context, you see that I am not afraid of this chart because I see that we're right about where the trend line is. And I think you should expect this chart to start leveling off because now we've picked up that trend line and we should stay there. Okay, but in Charlotte, completely different story. So I'm buying houses in Charlotte right now. I'm bidding more than asking price on houses in Charlotte right now. That's how confident I am that the market's going to continue to march along because it's pretty much recession resilient, recession proof. And the reason for that The population's off the charts. Look at the population growth. Why would home prices be so resilient even through a housing crisis? Well, because people are moving there. What they're doing is getting out of New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and Massachusetts and DC and Chicago, and they're coming to Charlotte. And here's your proof. Okay? The green line shows the county, the blue line is the state. That's doing fine, but the green line is even outpacing it. That's the county of Mecklenburg. So I hope that answers the question. Second question was, how does it compare to Fort Worth, Texas? Let's take a look. Fort Worth. All right, so now we're into Fort Worth. Of course, for most people know that Fort Worth is it's in the Dallas ecosystem. It's really unusual that the only other cities that I know that are like this are Minneapolis, St. Paul, DC, and Baltimore, where there's two cities that are kind of in each other's space. Fort Worth, if you come in, zoom in a bit, you start to get a sense, like just for the fun of it, I want to see what I can do for under 300 grand. See if anything remains. This is the kind of thing that causes people to say, I want to move there, right? 290,000 bucks, look at this house. All right, so here's Fort Worth's long-term price appreciation chart. Right, so interesting how the seasonality looks like a heartbeat, right? But you can see that, again, blue line was the country, real estate boom, real estate bust, real estate recovery. And then the green line, Texas was flat, barely even registered the housing boom and bust, and then has taken off since then. Now, this curve that began in 2012 matches up with what's also happening in Dallas, which is people are just getting out of California and every place in the country and going to Texas. Bottom line, okay, it always goes back to population trends, and the population trends in Texas are crazy good. And so this actually has a flat 6%, 6 even, which is almost double the national average in appreciation. It's mainly come in the last 9 or 10 years. And so qualitatively, Charlotte and Dallas-Fort Worth are very similar. They have a very similar return on investment. Fort Worth, a few years ago, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Charlotte had very similar appreciation rates, but Fort Worth has pulled away now. Remember in Charlotte a moment ago, I was showing you less than 3. So Charlotte's below the national average in appreciation rate. I think we are headed in Charlotte for one of those accelerated curves like we can see right now in Fort Worth. Where did it go? See, Fort Worth took off in 2012. I personally think we're going to see something like that happen in Charlotte, where this relatively calm chart is going to see a steeper incline in the future. That's my personal opinion. I'm not recommending that to everybody else, but that's what I'm buying based on. But otherwise, major southern cities, sucking population from the high density, high tax places around the country, and very popular. So I think they're similar. And my question would be, if you're going to invest, where do you live? If you live in Charlotte, just buy in Charlotte. I live in Charlotte. I could be investing in Nashville. I could be investing in Dallas. I could be investing in Jacksonville. I love all these places, but Charlotte's just as good as all the rest, and I'm right here. And so on Saturday, I'm going to be going down and taking a look and making sure that the gutters are cleaned out on my houses, right? Because I don't have any hobbies, so I'll be going and checking that out personally. So there's something good about being close by. All right, hope that was useful.